everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of The Ultimate Show. We're back at it. We have James here with us. No Andrew again, but I think he just got a new phone. Yeah. So, obviously can't take the time to be with us here on this lovely show. So, what we're going to do today is we're going to look at the playoff scenarios and possible seedings, and then we'll go on to a preview of Week 16. In a very pivotal week in the Western Division. So we're going to start off. James, what do the playoffs look like in the Eastern Division?
Okay, guys. So in the Eastern Division, all the playoff spots are officially taken. Toronto Rush at 9-3, 43-point differential. DC Breeze 9-4, 42-point differential, and Montreal 8-5 plus 2-point differential. Now, the thing about the East, even though all the playoff spots are taken, the playoff seedings are not necessarily taken. Toronto could ideally still end up in the second seed because they have the season series beaten. They've beaten Montreal in the season series, but DC actually holds the season series over Toronto. So Montreal cannot surpass Toronto, but DC still can if they end up with the same record. Now, if they all have the same record, now I don't know how that would work because they can all still ideally end up 9-5. And if that happens, Montreal owns the season series over DC. DC owns the season series over Toronto, and Toronto owns the season series over Montreal. So I don't exactly know what would happen. Ben, can you kind of enlighten me on what would happen if that was the case?
Well, we know Montreal wouldn't be first with that really bad goal differential.
Yeah.
That's probably what would it come down to next. So
yeah, or maybe well, I think Evan Leopard said something about a coin flip last year. I'm not exactly sure.
I mean, does it really matter? I mean, let's just get it to the division playoffs and see how this folds out.
Yeah. Oh, anyways, all I'm saying is the first seed is between DC and Toronto. Montreal cannot get in the first seed. But of course, number 2 seed is still up for grabs between DC and Montreal. So the playoff picture is still a little bit foggy, but we have an idea of where teams can end up, as long as they don't have the same record, because then things just get really complicated right there.
Yep.
So I guess we're gonna go to the Midwest division with Ben.
All right, guys. So Midwest Division, all 3 playoff teams have been decided, and that is the Madison Radicals, Minnesota Wind Chill, and Pittsburgh Thunderbirds. I'm kind of the only one who can celebrate since my team's the one in the playoffs.
Okay, good.
No, it's okay. Oh, and we actually have a win, so I guess I can celebrate that too. So Madison Radicals are sitting on top with a 10-2 record and a plus 41 goal differential. But actually, second place Minnesota Wind Chill 9-3 with a plus 45 goal differential, and Pittsburgh Thunderbirds 8-4 with a plus 18 goal differential. We already knew that these 3 teams were kind of set for last week. Since last week, we knew all 3 of those teams were going to make it, but things have panned out a little bit differently for the seedings because Minnesota lost to Pittsburgh Thunderbirds away in the second leg of their road trip. So unless Madison loses to 5th place Chicago or 4th place Indianapolis, Radicals are guaranteed the number 1 seed. And Pittsburgh cannot get the number 1 seed. Let's just put it that way. So Pittsburgh is kind of like Montreal. They can only get 2nd or 3rd. And Pittsburgh right now is leading the season series against Minnesota, but they still have to play again, and that is on the last week of the season. And that could kind of decide who gets 2nd or 3rd. But it should be a good finish to the season. So all 3 of those teams guaranteed to make the playoffs. Really the only thing is basically Madison's pretty much almost clinched. since I highly doubt they're going to lose to Chicago or Indianapolis. So now we'll move to the West Division, and it's kind of funny because uh, there were 5 teams that were still in the playoff hunt, and all 5 of them could have made the playoffs. All 5 of them could have not made the playoffs. That was kind of how it worked. There was one game in the West, and that was between LA Aviators and San Diego Growlers, and the Growlers were 5-6, and with the loss, that puts them at 5-7. So it looks like they're out of the playoffs now because San Francisco holds the tiebreaker over them. So now, looks a little bit better. 3 of the 4 teams that are left are going to make the playoffs. We have San Jose Spiders at 8-3, Los Angeles Aviators 8-4, San Francisco Flamethrower 7-4, and Seattle Cascade 6-5. So any of these teams can make the playoffs. Any of them can miss it. Anybody can get number 1 seed even. So I'm really looking forward to how this ends up in the Western Division. So obviously things a little bit clearer. Not one team got eliminated, and let's see what we got in the South.
Okay, so in the South Division, just so you guys know, when you guys look at the standings, you'll actually see Raleigh having 12-1. But on Saturday, they actually did 2 games with Nashville. They did their makeup game from week 12, and they did this week's game. So 2 games in one day to finish off Raleigh's season puts them actually at 13-1. And it also says that in the Tuesday toss. So whenever they update the standings, that will be taken care of. So at 13-1, Raleigh is not only guaranteed number 1 seed in the South, but if they make the championship weekend, they are the number 1 seed for the entire AUDL playoffs. Dallas Roughneck. So we have Raleigh at 13-1 with a 57-point differential, or maybe it's different because
it would be more with the win, but
yeah.
So
let's just say 13-1. I'm not clearly sure about point differential at the moment. Dallas Roughnecks are 10-3 with a 66-point differential, and the Jacksonville Cannons are 9-4 with a 21-point differential. Now, because Jacksonville owns the season series against Dallas, Jacksonville can still host a playoff game, but they need Dallas to lose their next game, and Jacksonville needs to win their next game. Now, I'm
pretty
fairly
sure they play each other, don't they?
No, they only play 2 games. That would be so awesome if they did, though.
I thought they
No, they don't.
Because Brody Smith was tweeting about it on Twitter, asking Evan Lepler if he was going to be at the Jacksonville-Dallas game. But
as I check the schedule.
Oh no, they don't play each other. He must.
Oh no, they play Nashville in their last. They played Nashville in their last game.
He must have been talking about playoffs. The cheeky guy.
Now, I'm actually going to get to this when I start talking about the previews. But so Jacksonville and Dallas are still fighting for that 2nd seed. Dallas plays Austin. Jacksonville plays Nashville, and I'll get into more of those games when we get to the previews, obviously. So we have guaranteed 1st seed Raleigh Flyers, and Dallas and Jacksonville still grinding it out for the 2nd seed and the home playoff game.
Yep. So now we'll get into our Week 16 preview and our predictions. So let's start off with the East Division.
Okay, so in the East Division, none of these games really matter anymore except for the playoff teams. But there's only one playoff team playing today. We have this week. We have New York versus Philadelphia. Philadelphia's kind of underachieved this season, but they managed to muster up a good 3 wins. More than that's. I think that's actually the same. I think that's the exact amount of wins they've gotten in the last 3 seasons before this.
That's
so
probably correct.
So, congratulations, Philadelphia. You passed expectations. 3 wins is more than some teams in the AUDL right now. I'm not going to say any names.
Well, I will. Nashville.
Okay, Ben. We're not the only ones. We're the only winless team, though.
Yeah, which is pretty bad.
And then Toronto is going to Ottawa. Toronto, I'm pretty sure if they win this game, I'm not. Nope, they still wouldn't clinch because DC can still tie the record, and with the season series, they can still surpass. But Toronto will be in very good shape to get number one seed if they beat Ottawa. Ottawa's having a terrible season right now at 2-9. It's definitely not. This is definitely not the Ottawa we saw last year. Hopefully they can turn around some things for this year. I still don't know any of the players' names on the Ottawa Outlaws, which is kind of upsetting, and it's probably why they're not doing good.
Well,
You don't know,
didn't they
but
have their big guy, Derek Alexander?
they do have them. That's one player right now.
Boom, AUDL knowledge.
But I mean, Toronto, they have Darren Wu, which I didn't know Darren Wu left Vancouver to Toronto until like literally a week ago. He signed with them at the beginning of the season, and I just never knew about it.
I feel
But
like that should have been headline news because I didn't know about it either.
Well, I mean,
okay
I kind of
then. Okay then.
I mean, that helps explains Vancouver's terrible season, though, if anything.
Yeah, true.
They lost one of their main superstars. Not to mention, they still have Mark Lloyd. So Toronto, you got Mark Lloyd, you got Darren Wu. I still don't know. Like, there's a lot of players. There's a lot of good players on Toronto. I just can't name all of
Yeah, that's true.
them. But Toronto versus Ottawa. I think New York takes this game against Philadelphia. At this point, New York's just playing for pride, trying to finish at 500. So I think New York beats Philadelphia. I think Toronto beats Ottawa. Not much to talk about for these East games because none of them really have playoff implications, except for Toronto playing for first seed. That's it.
Yep. And in the Midwest, things are a little bit more interesting. All 6 teams are playing, but none of the 3 playoff teams are playing against each other. So this may help with seeding a little bit if one of these teams randomly gets upset by one of the weaker teams in the division. Madison goes to the Chicago Wildfire, which, I mean, Chicago's got some stuff, but it just hasn't been their year. Few overtime losses have just destroyed them, so I can't really pick them again, so I'm just going to go with Madison on that one. Minnesota Wind Chill play Indianapolis on the road, and whenever Minneapolis and Minnesota just go on the road, it's always a close game. I think Minnesota will just pull this one out by 1 or 2, though, so have to go with that. And then Pittsburgh is at home to Detroit, and Detroit hasn't really done much either. They have a few wins, but other than that, nothing really. So I'm going to pick all 3 playoff teams to get it done this week. And sorry for being original, but have to go with them on this one. Now to the West, where it's all to play for. There are actually some really good matchups between playoff teams. Seattle travels to San Jose and does their Bay Area road trip. And
hey, Ben.
What?
Sorry to interrupt, but correct me if I'm wrong, but if San Jose beats Seattle, doesn't that mean San Jose clinches?
Yeah, they'd be 9-3. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one playoff spot up for grabs.
Yeah, and unfortunately, though, I am going to pick Seattle because I don't know why, but I'm pretty sure the last 2 games they've played were either a buzzer beater or an overtime win. So anything can kind of happen, and Seattle knows that they need to win this game, so they kind of just have to, don't they? And you know what?
Yeah.
If they do win, what is the Western Cup? Just what is the Western Division? Just have 4 playoff teams. Come on. Just do it, AUDL. Just do it.
Actually, I think all 4 of them could still finish with the same record, can't they?
You know what? Let's go for it.
That would be so perfect.
Yep.
Everyone will be spinning on their heads.
Oh yeah, I would. And then we got San Diego playing the LA Aviators again this weekend. Last week was a good game though. San Diego, I mean, obviously it was a must-win game, but I think San Diego is going to want some revenge. And you know what? I like that. So I'm going to go with San Diego on this one, even though they're out of the playoffs anymore.
It's like, hey guys, you may have eliminated us, but we can still play spoiler to you.
Yeah, yeah. And probably the biggest game of the week, and naturally fitting, it's on AUDL TV. Seattle is at San Francisco. And honestly, I think this is 100% the game of the week. They got it right. Because Seattle is 6-5 and San Francisco is 7-4. So whoever wins this game, basically after this week, they're going to be tied for this. They could be tied with the same record. But I mean, just let it happen. Just let everybody finish with the same record. I'm going to go with San Francisco because we all know how tough those second dayers are of those road trips.
Yes, and do not tell Bo Kittredge he will miss the playoffs.
Yeah, I know. So let's head to the final division in the South.
Okay, so in the South, there's one team, of course, that has no more games, Raleigh Flyers. I like to call them the new Golden State Warriors of the AUDL because of the fact that they had a core team that they formed, and then they added two-time AUDL MVP Jonathan Helton, and somehow they just became an all-star team. They literally crafted their team to beat Dallas, but I think Jacksonville did too. But I'm going to start these games. I'm sorry, guys. So we have Nashville at Atlanta. Not much to say. Two teams that really haven't done well this season.
Your reaction to seeing that game was just great. Well,
it's nothing. I mean, honestly, just because I know Nashville does not want to have a winless season, I'm picking Nashville over Atlanta because neither one of these teams have anything else to play for. Neither one of them has a chance of finishing at 500. So really, they're just playing because the season has them playing at this point. Yeah. People might not even show up to the game.
If the tickets are cheap enough, anybody will go.
So Nashville beats Atlanta just because I'm praying for a season with a win. Dallas at Austin, this game kind of has more implications because if Dallas wins, they will clinch the second seed, and if Austin somehow beats them, which they are capable of doing,
they are rivalry games.
Then things get a bit more interesting. But I feel like Dallas wins this. They get their home playoff game. They get one more game in front of their crowd for a championship weekend. Dallas over Austin. I think Bo Kittredge is back this week. I'm pretty sure he was just out for Worlds. For Beach Worlds. And then the World Games are like... I think World Games are next week, too. So there's going to be a lot of players missing next week. It's going to be crazy.
That could be interesting.
Yeah, especially for I know the game between Minnesota and Pittsburgh. If they have any players participating in Worlds, that's good.
Well, I don't think Minnesota does. So, bye, DiGirolamo. Yes, let's go. Yes.
But I know Dallas has plenty, but this will finish off their season, so Worlds won't affect them at all. So I think Dallas beats Austin. Now, this game, Nashville versus Jacksonville. A lot of you guys are thinking, are we seriously talking about this? Hey, here's what I know. If it's one thing Nashville has done the past 3 seasons with Jacksonville, it is crushed their hopes and dreams. Nashville has loved playing spoiler to Jacksonville. They always get at least one win versus Jacksonville, and it's always in the best moments, too. It's the reason why we're the reason Jacksonville didn't make the playoffs last year. We upset them and eliminated them from the playoffs. We're the reason 2 years ago Jacksonville didn't get number 1 seed in the South. 2 years ago, we're the reason they didn't get number 1 seed in the South versus Raleigh. And we will be the reason they don't get number 2 seed. Because even if Austin beats Dallas, Nashville beats Jacksonville. I am putting it down. My upset of the week. The Nashville spoils Jacksonville. The annual Nashville spoils Jacksonville game. It's bound to happen. And I'm kind of just hoping.
You plan on taking that speech on tour?
Plus, we don't have too much more to look forward to. If we lose both these games this week, we'll be 0-13 for crying
Yeah, that's what happens. Your hockey goes up, your ultimates just got to come down. That's just
out
how
loud.
it goes.
That guys, dreams in Tennessee have already been crushed too much. We don't need this.
I mean, and there's the weather just like killing everybody,
We
being
don't
so
need this,
warm.
guys. We don't have enough going for us. The Grizzlies can't beat the Spurs. The Predators are getting cheated out of Stanley Cups. The Titans can't make the playoffs.
Yeah, but look at Minnesota. Come on.
So this is just one of those things that we hope for.
Yeah.
Beat Jacksonville for the love of God. Play spoiler like you guys know how. Win a game or two, or maybe I don't know. Go on a 3-0 run to close the season at 3-11. Three is better than 0.
Unless you're playing golf.
Yes,
All
that's your
right.
playing goal.
All right, guys. So a little more chilled back episode, I think we could all agree on. Some good picks, hopefully, for us. And a little bit of a better look in at the playoffs for 3 of the divisions, anyway. We hope you all enjoyed, and we'll see you next week. Have a good one, guys.